He was once a full-patch member of the Hells Angels and addicted to drugs, but today he's turned his life around and dedicated it to reaching at-risk youth, saving them from the life he once led. Joe Calandino tells his story in a new book called To Hell and Back. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
I have so many questions after reading this book, but I'm going to begin with the one that's baffled me the most. When I think of at-risk youth, you don't fit that profile. You were successful. You had graduated high school, had a business degree, had parlayed a great career into a business of your own that was successful. What was the turning point that you risked everything to take up this life in a gang?
For me, it started at a very young age. In my younger years, one of the things I identified with is the kind of bravado, the alpha male, going to high school. As it's written by the co-author, Gary Little, within the book, my old high school counselor, How Life Comes to Be Full Circle. It just took one moment, 1 second, and I was reinvested in a lifestyle, even though I had built a successful cell phone business back in the day from one phone into a chain of 3 stores, and had it all and had, you know, life going in the proper direction. And somebody walked in, and I had walked away from that lifestyle in my early 20s, went back to school and did all the good things that mom and dad would want you to do. And he just said, let's go for a beer tonight. And from there, the journey began, and I started to re-identify with that lifestyle all over again. And at the end of the day, it was my demise.
What is the draw? I mean, when you think of at-risk youth, you maybe think there's, you know, they're looking for a family, they're looking for money, that sort of thing. What was the draw for you then at that point?
For me, it was, you know, that sense of glitz, glamour, glory, that highest status that you could achieve within a certain lifestyle, that rock star status, that almost status of being at the top of the world, red carpet treatment when you walk into places. And
is it really like that? I mean, you were a full patch member fairly quickly. It happened. Is it like that? Is that a reality?
You know, when you're going through the process and you start to enter into the lifestyle, you know, and you're taking baby steps, you may think it's all this and that, but once you're really invested in the lifestyle and you see the effects on your family doesn't want to be around you. You know, you can't even kiss your own child at the door. He's screaming, daddy, daddy, you know, kiss, kiss, hug, hug. You got to pull him away from the door. You know, you're always, you know, in the book it speaks about me being caught with a loaded 45. And that's the way you live life, right? So
always afraid of who's at the door or what's next?
What's behind that door, you know, fighting the fight, living the lifestyle, doing what you have to do. I've been caught with drugs, weapons charges, assault. I was a drug addict. So nobody wants to talk about that piece because everybody always thinks they're invincible.
And I mean, maybe it was the stress of that life, of that worry that led you down to a very difficult place. I mean, I hear the saying, you know, it's easy to join a gang. It's tough to get out. You actually got kicked out. I mean, it was a very fast spiral. Talk to me about that.
Yeah, for me, it was a very fast spiral. I was making poor choices, even within the club, never mind making the choices to get into the club. But once I was in the club, I spiraled into addiction. How could I not? I was around drugs all the time. You know, you start to use a little bit to cope, and then from coping, all of a sudden, you're waking up to it, you're going to sleep to it, then you're doing stupid things. The club even looks at you and goes, what are you thinking? And I got into a major altercation in a casino, and it created a lot of bad publicity for the club. And they had had enough with me, and they said, you're done. And that was kind of my spiraling into addiction, because I now lost everything. I lost my house, my wife, my kids. You know, my brotherhood, my people that I belonged to, I was done with, and I had nowhere to go. And, you know, for those that want to identify with the lifestyle, remember, at the end of the day, they'll be there for you in the moment. But when everything's said and done, you're going to be standing on your own.
You're here today very different than some of the images we're seeing, the video of your past. How did you go from that to now heading up an initiative helping at-risk youth not follow in your footsteps?
Well, it all started with the rock bottom. Everybody has a bottom, you know, rock bottom, the end of the day, whatever you want to call it. There was a gentleman I went to high school with. His name was Kevin Torvik. I became a biker. He became a policeman for Biker Gang Task Force. Ironic how the story goes. And from there, when I looked up at him from the prison floor, I just said, I never want to see a kid go through this. And he looked at me and said, dude, you can't even help yourself. How are you going to help kids? But the journey began, and I got myself clean, and we got reacquainted with our old high school counselor, Gary Little, the co-author of the book. And Gary now had worked his way up to the associate superintendent for the school district, and he was the commander-in-chief of the school district to give any initiative the green light to go ahead. At first, he had some reservations and felt I was not ready. I was still too weak. And with the building blocks that he had given me and the advice, we were able to get to a place where we were able to go into the school. And then from there, once we started with one school and got the police aboard, we then started to have the impact on the kids. One of the policemen, also Brandon Steele, who's in the story, the one I hated the most. I did not like him much. But he jumped aboard, and we're good friends now. And he became part of our board of directors, and we've been able to have a lot of success with our programs in Vancouver.
I'm sure a lot of these people would attribute that success to you, because it's important that these kids hear from you. And from what I understand, the key to your success is that you are very real with them. You're frank. You don't, you know, hide anything from them.
No,
How
I don't.
is that?
One of the things we all got to be able to do as parents, as educators, as police, is be able to have critical conversations. But while having those conversations, make sure you take a moment to just pause and listen. If we can't hear our kids, we can't understand what they are going through. So they live in a space where everything's on demand. We're in a fentanyl crisis right now that's reaching all throughout Canada. This drug fad that we have now, the wave of shootings we have in, you know, greater Vancouver. And I'm pretty sure it happens not only in Vancouver, but it happens throughout Canada. We just have to let these kids know they have a safe place, a sense of belonging, a purpose, a mission, and we align our vision with their vision, and then we come together and create an extended family to their family. And through that, we've been able to create success.
Thank you so much for sharing your story. If you'd like to find out more about the Yo Bro, Yo Sis initiative, that is the initiative that Joe leads up, you can go to ybysg.ca. And to read more about Joe's story, his book, To Hell and Back, is available now at bookstores everywhere.